Okay, so soon we're going to take a look at more pawn stuff, but for now I want you to take a look at, you may have noticed this new folder here, which if you'll recall from when we took our Epic Games launcher, down in the vault we added some assets to our project. Now we have this folder, Infinity Blade Adversaries. So take a look at this, and I want you to take a few minutes and go through these enemies, and you'll see that each enemy has some assets in there, and of course it's got these maps. If you want to check out these maps, what you can do is you've got this overview. If you double click it, it'll take a second to load, but you'll have an overview of all the assets in here. But take a look at these enemies and take a look at all of them, see if you can find one you like. But eventually what we're going to be using is this great spider, or greater, not greater, but great spider. And if you double click it, it's this spider creature, and it'll take a second to load the materials. So don't worry, it's not going to stay gray. It's going to load up some materials. And while that's loading, we'll go back and take a look at enemy greater spider, or great spider, spider greater animation. And so these are animation assets, and if you double click on these, it'll actually show you the animation for the spider. And so this is how we're going to get to be able to make things that are more organic, more lively and dynamic, moving around. And this is where game design really starts to get interesting. So I just wanted to show you this, that we've got some assets to work with now, so you can start getting excited. And right off the bat, we can actually use this for our critter. I told you critter was going to be something that crawls around. So if we go to blueprints and we go to critter BP, open up that, click on open full, and we go to mesh component, we have this static mesh. Now we want something better than a static mesh. We want something that can move around. Static means doesn't move, so stuff like this cone. But if we go back to Visual Studio to critter.h and we look at mesh component, we could change this from use static mesh component to use skeletal. Use skeletal mesh component. So a skeletal mesh component has something called a skeleton, which is related to animation. It basically moves and morphs the mesh. And so since this is a skeletal mesh component, we need to go over here to critter.cpp, and instead of static mesh component, we need skeletal mesh component. And here for the create default subobject, rather than static, it's going to be use skeletal mesh component. And let's see if, yep, it looks like our include was correct. And it looks like IntelliSense is going to take a second to catch up because it still thinks this is a static mesh component, which it's not. We changed it. So that is all we need to do in C++. And just as a side note, if you didn't know already, if you're including things in the H file, you always want this generated.h file to be the last thing included. So don't ever include something underneath it. You'll get an error. That's just a little tidbit in passing. Okay, so we've made this a skeletal mesh component, and I'm going to come in here into the engine. I'm going to click Save All, and I'm going to close it out. And I'm going to compile and load visuals and load Unreal Engine from Visual Studio. And to do that, you can do Control F5, and it's going to ask if you want to build it. Say yes, and that's the same as doing build. And let's see. I think it's it's actually here. And debug start without debugging, and that will actually start Unreal Engine for us. So let's give it a second to load. Okay, so if we open up Critter BP, open full, and click Mesh Component, it still doesn't show up. So just to be safe, I'm going to delete Critter BP, delete that, go to C++ classes, and go to Critter, right click, and create a blueprint based on Critter, put it on Blueprints, call it critter underscore BP again, and click create blueprint class. Now if we click mesh component, there it is. So sometimes you need to do that. If you change it significantly, you'll need to delete the blueprint and create a new one from the C++ class. Okay, so we've got a mesh component, and now it says skeletal mesh component. And a skeletal mesh component has a mesh property here, and we can choose this. And what I'd like to choose for this is, let's type in spider, and we'll see SK greater spider. So here it is. It's quite a big guy. And we can click on him, and we can click E and rotate by 90 degrees. So it's pointing in the positive X direction. And I want to scale him down to about 0.3 in each dimension. So it's not quite as scary, because it's a critter, not a monster or anything like that. We just want a small spider. So we've got this spider, and you'll see under the, because this is a skeletal meshes can be animated, and you'll see that we've got this animation category, and you'll see animation mode, and you can choose use animation blueprint or use animation asset. For now, click use animation asset, and you'll see this anim to play. So if we click on that, and if we type greater underscore spider, you should see idle, and now we've got this nice idle animation for the spider. So go ahead and click compile and save that and close it out. And if we drag in a critter, you'll see that it's still got its camera there, but that's okay. We don't want to possess this pawn. In fact, to be sure, let's go back to Visual Studio, and it says it's been modified outside the environment. We can click reload. That's fine. So we'll give it a second to reload it. And now that we're reloaded, we're going to take this auto possess player and comment that line out, because we're not really going to be using that for this now. It's going to be a pawn that we're not possessing. So we'll go ahead and rebuild that, and we'll go back to Unreal Engine, and we should be able to, as soon as it's finished compiling, yes, it's done, we should be able to hit play. If we hit play, you'll notice that because we've got a critter pawn in the world, it's going to possess that pawn anyway. It's going to look at it and possess it. If we go to critter underscore BP and we type in player, it still has auto possess player 0 set. So if we disable that and click compile and save, now if we hit play, then we will actually get our correct pawn. So we've got a critter in the world. It's just sitting there, and it's just basically a pawn that isn't getting possessed. And the only pawn in the world is the one spawned by the player start here, and that one has the auto possess player set to player 0. So we can drag in as many critters as we want. We can rotate them. We can translate them. We could even scale them if we wanted to. And even though they each have a camera, that's not going to be used in the game. So we've got 3 critters here, and we can, use our pawn to move around. Now the critters don't have any collisions set up, so we're not going to collide with them. But we have the ability to walk around and see them, and we can eventually give them movement capabilities. So okay, so we've got our critters and they're animated, and if you have taken a look at these other assets in these folders here, you'll see that we've got quite a bit to work with. So that's something I wanted to show you so that you can start getting excited about some of the more artistic things we can do with the engine. And in a future video, we're going to actually get some environments, and we're going to have something a lot more pleasing to the eye when we're developing in Unreal Engine.